Hello and welcome to the in-new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja, and in this segment today we are going to discuss about the early arrival of monsoon in India, also why it has happened and what are the implications along with the factors associated. From the perspective of preliminary examination, you have to pay attention to the factors associated and the arrival plus withdrawal of monsoon. From GS Mains Paper 1, the analysis part is much more important for us, and that is why we are going to have a detailed analysis of this entire arrival of monsoon. That is why please pay attention. Before I begin, I asked you a question about the regulation of prostitution in ancient and medieval India. So many empires did have a regulation process for prostitution, and most profoundly it was found in the Vijayanagar Empire, in which prostitution, it had a legal sanction from the Krishna Dev Raya, the Emperor Krishna Dev Raya. And even in past, many other empires also had a role to play in the legalization, or you can say regulation of prostitution. Many of you have answered bit by bit correctly, but most profoundly you can say it was the Vijayanagar Empire. Okay, if you know more about other empires, you are free to comment. So let's move on and talk about what is the onset of monsoon, what is the arrival of monsoon. Now, since the year 2010, this is the fourth time that the monsoon has arrived 3 days early or earlier than it is generally prescribed to be arriving in India. The 1st of June is actually the correct date of arrival of monsoon every year, but this time it has arrived early. That means we are going to have a regular monsoon and other implications will follow. So basically, on April 14 this year, the Indian Meteorological Department, it released its first long-range forecast for this year. And what is this forecast? According to WMO, that is World Meteorological Organization, the forecast from 30 days up to one season's description of average weather parameter is known as long-range forecast, in which monthly and seasonal both are included. And it predicted a normal monsoon, that we are going to have a normal monsoon. Rainfall is likely to be in the range of 96% to 104% of the long range average if we compare them to the period from 1971 to 2020. Is this really good for India? Does this mean that every other region in the country is going to receive arrival of monsoon earlier? We will find out about this. Moving on, if we talk about the factors, or we call it friends of Indian monsoon. Who are the friends and predictable or reliable friends of Indian monsoon? Like you all have predictable and reliable friends and the fake friends or unpredictable friends. First friend of Indian monsoon is MASCARENE high. Now we tend to hear all this, that the pressure is low in the Indian subcontinent due to the northward shift of intertropical convergence zone. Okay, there is a low pressure because of high heating of the northwest and of course the northern region of India or Indian subcontinent. But do we actually know who is our friend, the monsoon friend that India waits for? It's the southwest monsoon. We say that we are going to receive the monsoon from southwest. Where does it come from? It comes from 4,000 kilometers away from India, that is near the MASCARENE Island in southern Indian Ocean. Okay, these are the MASCARENE Islands. I'm going to change the color of the pen, otherwise you won't be able to see properly. And this is the MASCARENE high that we are going to talk about. The MASCARENE high, it forms approximately near 25 degree to 35 degrees south of India, and of course the longitudinal range would be 40 degree east to 90 degree east. Now as you can see, this is the MASCARENE Island, and here the high pressure starts to form about mid-April. Okay, and about mid-April, when the strong MASCARENE high forms, the pressure becomes really easy for the winds to move from the high pressure area to the low pressure Indian subcontinent, and then it goes from here to here. Okay, because as you can see, it will go from south to northwest. Now Till here, everything is fine. The winds are moving towards India, but you see, it is going in the northwesterly direction. We need the monsoon to arrive to India only if it goes in the easterly direction. And then our second friend, that is I am the monsoon, and my second friend will be Coriolis force, which is a pseudo force. It of course is there because of the rotation of the earth. And when the winds will start moving towards the northwest to the Mascarene High, because of the Coriolis force, it will move towards the east. Alright, and then when it hits the peninsula, it will divide into two branches, the Arabian Sea branch and the Bay of Bengal branch. Okay, second friend, Coriolis force will never change. That is why it is our predictable friend. One thing that we have an unpredictable friend, that is the El Nino Southern Oscillation. El Nino Southern Oscillation is the relationship between the temperature of the ocean in the eastern Pacific and the atmosphere above it. And because if suppose what happens, the trade winds, they blow westwards and they bring good rainfall in Australia, Indonesia and the Indian subcontinent. If we have a strong El Nino or a positive El Nino, what will happen? The area near the Peru, South America, the country of Peru, it becomes the ocean temperature, this becomes warm. And when it becomes warm, what happens? The atmosphere above it, it starts attracting winds from the western region, that means from high pressure towards the low pressure. And then what happens? There is lots of flood, lots of diseases that are near the regions of South America. And it is carried on by the second part of it, the flip side of it, too much rain in South America, but drought-like conditions in Australia and Indonesia. So this is our unreliable friend. Now, one of our really good friends is Indian Ocean Dipole. Indian Ocean Dipole can be either positive or negative or neutral, like the El Nino. Now, if we have a positive Indian Ocean Dipole means the warming of the Western Indian Ocean is greater than the Eastern Indian Ocean. Okay, so if we have a stronger Indian Ocean Dipole or positive Indian Ocean Dipole, this will be warmer and this area will bring heavy rains to India. And if we have a negative Indian Ocean Dipole, that means eastern waters will be warmer than the western waters of the Indian Ocean. This will bring drought-like conditions to India. So, let us know one thing that I would like to clear over here. From 1994 to 2006, although El Nino Southern Oscillation was fluctuating a lot, there could have been drought-like conditions, but we were saved by the Indian Ocean Dipole. And El Nino Southern Oscillation is something that experts have not been able to properly analyze and present a more concrete picture of it because it is very unpredictable in nature. Moving on, if we talk about the onset of monsoon, how does it happen? Up till now, we have discussed the factors that are related to it. Now we will discuss about how the monsoons behave when they come near to the Indian Peninsula. As I told you, when it reaches the Indian Peninsula's southern tip, it will divide the monsoon or Mosim from the Arabic, we got this word. It will divide into two branches, the Arabian branch and the Bay of Bengal branch. So the first hit region, you see generally the monsoon arrives at the southern tip of the Indian Peninsula by the first week of June, coming to Kerala on 1st June. The general behavior is such. After it comes there, divides into two branches, and the Arabian Sea branch, that is from here, it will reach to Mumbai on 10th of June. This is the general trend. And then the Bay of Bengal branch, that is from here, it will go towards Assam. Okay, it rapidly goes towards Assam. Here we have the mighty Himalayas also, right? The mighty Himalayas are here. Okay, so what happens after that? Also remember that when does Assam receive generally the rainfall from the Bay of Bengal? That's in the first week of June. Then what happens that the Bay of Bengal branch, it gets deflected towards the Ganga plains because of the Himalayas. Alright, and then what happens? We also have our Arabian branch reaching Saurashtra and Kutch region by 15th June. And then what happens after a period of time? This Arabian branch and the Bay of Bengal branch, they meet at the northwestern region of Ganga Plains. Remember that. Northwestern region of Ganga Plains. And Delhi generally receives rainfall from the, remember that this could be a question, from the Bay of Bengal branch. Okay, Delhi receives rainfall from the Bay of Bengal branch. And also keep in mind that Himalayas also have a huge role to play in the coming of the monsoon, because they save Indian peninsula from the colder winds from Siberia, keeping it heated up for the low pressure to be created. Secondly, it deflects the monsoon in the westerly direction, not the easterly. Easterly would be there, westerly direction, so that proper meeting up of those places, those two branches can happen. Then Western Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana and Eastern Rajasthan, they get monsoon by the first week of July. The monsoon reaches the Himachal Pradesh and the rest of the country by the mid-July. And then till 4 months, we see continuance of the monsoon. Okay, let's move on and talk about the withdrawal. After proper rainfall, after the months of September, the monsoon begins to withdraw from the northwestern states of India first. Remember this keyword. And that happens in early September. Then completely it withdraws from the northern part by mid-October and part of the Indian peninsula, remember that. And the rest of the country by early December, which is of course accompanied by clear skies. And the island receives the very first, the islands of India, Andaman and Nicobar, they receive the first monsoon showers from the first week of April to the first week of May, remember that. Progressively from south to north, and the withdrawal of monsoon in the islands, they take place from the first week of December to the first week of January. All this has been sourced from the class 9th NCERT. So this is a predictable information that I am giving you over here. Now the current situation here, the Earth System Science Organization, which is working under the Ministry of Earth Sciences as a society. But there is a catch over here. Okay, this society is not registered under the Societies Registration Act of 1860, but another act. Can you tell me in the comments segment which society has this particular organization been registered into? And also the Indian Meteorological Department, which also works under the Ministry of Earth Sciences, they take into account several factors every April, every year, and after that they predict the oncoming of the monsoon. Let's see what are these particular factors that have been taken into account since 2016. Okay, so the sea surface temperature gradient between North Atlantic and North Pacific, the sea surface temperature of the equatorial South Indian Ocean, mean sea level pressure in East Asia, the surface air temperature over Northwest Europe, warm water volume of equatorial Pacific, these all are undertaken. Then the current situation has said that at least 60% of 14 designated meteorological stations in Kerala and Lakshadweep record at least 2.5 mm of rain, and that happens for 2 consecutive days after any time after the day of May 10th. Now in this situation, the onset of monsoon is declared and Pacific wind temperature criteria should be fulfilled. So these are the criteria. Remember the criteria. When do they tell about the onset or give an authenticity to the information of onset of monsoon? The 14 enlisted stations include Minikoi, Amini, Thiruvananthapuram, Punalur, Kollam, Alappuzha, Kottayam, Kochi, Thrissur, Kozhikode, Thalassery, Kannur, Kasaragod, Mangaluru. Okay. Then comes our wind field. When the depth of westerlies, they should be up to 600 hectopascals, bound by the equator to 10 degree north latitude and from longitude 55 degree east to 80 degree east. Zonal wind speed should be over the area bound by 5 to 10 degree north latitude and 70 to 80 degree east latitude. They should be in the order of 15 to 20 knots. Then heat, because of the INSAT derived outgoing long wave radiation, OLR value, which is a measure of the energy emitted to space by the Earth's surface, oceans and atmosphere temperature. Below, it should be below 200 watt per square kilometer. The latitudinal extent and longitudinal extent is given 5 to 10 degree north latitude, 70 to 75 degrees, and the onset is not officially declared until the prescribed conditions are met. So you see that these are the many conditions to be fulfilled. Then one more thing that we have to be clear about over here is really if we have received monsoon earlier than the prescribed date, all the other regions are going to get their monsoon before the time. It's not so, because that depends on the temperature pattern of each area. If every other area will have the low pressure over them at the similar range that Kerala has, then of course arrival could be earlier. If they do not have so, it could be late. Also, there is no such thing as if we have received the monsoon earlier, it doesn't mean that any sort of quantity is going to be increased or decreased. It's not so. There has been a trend that in 2018 and 17, the onset over Kerala, it occurred on May 29th and May 30th respectively. Then in 2010, onset was realized on May 31st, 2020 and 2013. It was exactly on time, hitting the Kerala coast on June 1st. In the rest of the years going back to 2010, the onset was delayed. In 2019, IMD had announced a delay of 6 days and predicted the onset for June 6th. And the monsoon finally set in over Kerala on June 8th. So these are the many trends. First of all, we need to understand southwest monsoon is very important for us from the agricultural perspective. And also, we receive our 70 to 80% of rainfall in the southwest monsoon trend. Okay. And that is why the southwest monsoon, it irrigates half of India's cropland, specifically in the northern regions. Its arrival marks the beginning of cultivation of rain-fed kharif crops, and early showers will ensure that the farmers start planting major crops such as rice, soya bean, cotton and pulses. Also, farmers who are reeling under a lot of stress, they, due to low crop prices and normal rainfall, is expected to help revive the sector and elevate rural poverty or distress. Okay, there is also one paradox that if we have a bumper crop, then what happens? Because what happens when a bumper crop occurs? Distress sale, the supply is a lot, demand is not a lot, then distress sales can also occur. And agriculture, it contributes 15% of the India's gross domestic product. Now, past data has indicated there is a positive correlation between actual rainfall and the growth rate of agriculture GDP. It will not only boost agricultural production, but increase consumer demand. It will help keep inflation in check, which is much needed. So let's look at our question. Discuss in detail the factors responsible for timely arrival or onset of monsoon in India. Also analyze the current trend related to monsoon in India in 250 words. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.